Hello, I'm Paul.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome to the Filmbusters podcast. The film show with no filters, no prisoners taken, loads of disagreements, but one hell of a love for cinema.
If you want to hear three friends ridiculing each other for an hour or so regarding their taste in films, then you have come to the right place.
In each episode, one of the team picks a film for us to discuss. It could be anything from a recent cinema release to an all-time classic.
So, strap in and get ready to get mad or get vindicated as we guide you through the murky world of being a film geek.
If you like what you hear, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram using @FilmbustersPod. You can also find each of our individual accounts. I'm at Filmbusters Paul.
I'm at Filmbusters Adam.
And I'm at Filmbusters Ben.
If you want to use your eyes instead of your ears, you can also visit the website at filmbusterspod.co.uk.
And if busting makes you feel good, you can also support us at patreon.com/filmbusters for exclusive content.
Or shoot over and get some groovy merchandise at society6.com/filmbusters.
Alright, can we just get on with this now, please?
Filmbusters.
Hello, wonderful people. It is the month of May. And what does that mean, Adam?
We're doing our series of films on Re-Animator.
Oh my god, how do you feel about that, Ben?
I feel very fine.
You feel very fine?
Very fine.
I want a bit more enthusiasm.
I'm not very enthusiastic about this.
Yeah, you need a bit of that green gunge in you, mate.
Ooh.
Green Gunge.
That's like that film I watched the other day.
Flubber.
I saw Flubber in the cinema.
Did you? I saw it on a TV.
I had the VHS.
VHS. I was in the cinema and my granddad was mad at the woman who was sitting next to him eating a hot dog, so he clambered over the seats and sat by himself 2 rows in front. He was so put out by her.
For a
It
second,
clearly
I
runs
thought-
in the family.
I thought
What a
he was
man.
climbing over the seats to get to the person.
That would have been creepy.
What a man.
I'm going to smack that out of your hand.
For a
dear.
second, I thought you were going to say he was going to clamber over the seats and go sit next to the person. Just to make it so...
He's like, will you respect the film Flubber?
He hated it. He wanted to hear all of the well-crafted dialogue in Flubber. He did not want to hear her crunchy onions.
Oh, that's a great little story there. I like it.
But we're not here to talk about Flubber. We're talking about the other green
I
gunk.
think we should talk about Flubber a bit more because I like this story.
All I remember is it bounces around the room and then it does a little dance. I mean, it like splits into loads of pieces.
All I remember is him by the hospital window and he's like bouncing up and down by the window. And, like,
What was
seeing
the
room.
point of the story? What did the Flubber actually achieve for
Make him
him?
bounce more, he make you jump.
Yeah, he puts it on his shoes and he bounces.
Was he a basketball player?
I think he did play
fucking know.
basketball at one point.
Yeah, probably. He definitely did play basketball.
I bet he did a lot of ad-libbing in that film.
Of course he did, it's Robin Williams.
I was watching Doubtfire the other day and there's so much ad-libbing. It's like you could just tell the director was like, just let him say what he's got to say. Get it out of his system and then keep it all in.
Wonderful.
Ben, you gave Flubber a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I suppose that's about right. For nostalgia reasons purely.
Paul gave it a 5.
Oof.
And I gave it a 5.
It probably is really a 5 though, isn't it?
Maybe if I rewatched it.
I don't know, maybe we should do it one day. Who knows? See what
Maybe
happens.
do a watch along.
Let's.
It's on
The
Disney.
people want the Flubber episode.
No, people don't want the Flubber. They want the Re-Animator episode. That's what they're here
I'm
for.
bored. We've moved on from Re-Animator. Re-Animator was done. We did that in the intro. We've moved on to the other green
That's
stuff.
all it
But
is.
this is the Re-Animator season. So to give proper context for people who are listening to us for the first time, this month of May we are going through the entire Re-Animator series of films. I say entire, it's only 3, but we haven't seen any of them before.
Nope.
And we're going through them collectively. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And we will be laying our thoughts down here for your listening pleasure after we've watched each film.
And just for context, if you are listening in the month of December, we are recording in the month of May, and that's why it's called the Re-Animator month. Okay.
You're
Yes.
making it up. It's not really a thing.
The Re-Animator.
Re-Animator.
Anyway, I would like to hear what you boys thought about this and whether it was worthwhile us picking this to go
Yes.
through it through May, because if we all
Any
hated
film
it,
we pick is worthwhile.
it's true.
Because we have a lovely conversation out of it.
Exactly.
But before we have the conversation,
Yeah, just before that, let's just say what we're going to be doing after this episode. It is a patron episode we will be doing afterwards, and it's a suggestion from our lovely patron, Jamie Russell. And what will that be, Ben?
Oh, well, Jamie has asked us, because this was originally meant to follow on after the Straight Story episode. He has asked us for our strangest or most unusual director or actor choices. So for Lynch, Straight Story was very unusual, very peculiar choice. And today, all three of us will be revealing our three most peculiar actor choices or director choices. Peculiar was not the word that he used, but I can't remember the word he used.
I feel like peculiar wouldn't apply to any of my three.
What was it he said?
Like against the grain, like out of the norm.
Out of the norm for them, yeah.
Yes.
Based on what they normally do.
Indeed. If you want to see this wonderful episode, then you can go to www.patreon.com/filmbusters and become a patron with the likes of Jamie Russell, who suggested this episode we're going to do.
We also have Nerd Revert.
We also have Katie and OT.
From For Your Reference.
That's right.
And lastly, we have Julio from the Contrarians.
How did I become part of that gang? Now, what did he get for becoming part of that gang?
Well, to become part of it, I already said, but it's www.patreon.com/filmbusters, and they get exclusive episodes, exclusive content, exclusive time with the Filmbusters. If you're nasty.
You get a little group chat. We open a little
nasty.
group chat with you. You can just chat to us, and all three of us at the same time on Twitter, and just
You can chat
chat
to
shit
us.
about films.
Yes.
Exactly. And you also get to pick some episodes that you want us to do as well.
Yes.
That's true. Also, shall we say, we could probably say at this point in the episode, even though they're not patrons of ours, we can plug another little link to what we're doing at the moment. We're going to be appearing on the Movie Journey podcast in their upcoming Pod v Pod. I don't know, it may have even been released by the time this one is out.
Yeah,
in which
exactly.
case, go listen to us. Go head to head with them. We haven't recorded it yet, but it's coming.
We destroyed them.
Yes.
You can
put that energy out into the world.
Of course.
Oh no, they beat us really badly. Just pick whichever one you want and answer it when it happens.
Basically, if Adam has anything to do with the asking and answering of questions, we will
win.
Succeed based on his performance this year.
Oh,
You
apparently
win.
so. And
I was going to be
speaking of
derogatory
that,
about you, but you're
Good.
winning, so how can I?
That is a perfect segue, really, isn't it?
But what are we doing now? We're doing our own quiz.
We're doing
So
our
the
own
quiz.
quiz. For people that don't know, we do this every episode. We ask each other, I ask Adam and Ben as the quiz host, I ask them two questions about the film we are doing, which today is Re-Animator. They get two questions. If they get them right, they get the points. If they get them wrong, I get the points. Ben, you're on 10 points. Adam, you're on 17 points. And I am on 7 points. In that order.
Yeah.
Do you want your first question?
Yes.
Dr. Hill taught that once the heart stops and breathing ceases, the brain has between what range of
6
time?
to 12 seconds.
6 to 12 minutes.
Ben, what are you doing?
Is it?
It's minutes.
I was like, for fuck's sake, he's got it. And then I heard him say seconds. I was like, hang on a second, he's fucked it.
It's because I was so excited that I knew the numbers and I got
That was
the
so,
measure of numbers
that was
wrong.
so sad.
I don't know why I paused. I was going to go
I
for
heard
it.
seconds and I was like, oh.
Oh,
I had the
Benny
numbers
B.
in my mind as soon as you started asking that question,
You
but I
were
was like,
so
I've got to wait.
excited.
Damn, I thought I had it.
It was 6 to 12 minutes before brain activity dies.
So what does that mean? Did Adam get that?
He
Yeah.
got it.
Fucking hell, mate.
Very sorry, Ben. There's
can I
still one
say?
more question. You can claw a point
I
back.
know. Let's claw. Damn. Adam, would you have got that right
Yeah.
if I hadn't have said seconds?
I started for some reason. I was going to say it like how you said it. I like just jump in, but I kind of froze for a second and didn't do anything. And then
You
jumped
lucky
in and got it
boy.
wrong.
You lucky boy.
They say it
Very
many
lucky.
times throughout the film.
They do.
Many times. Many, 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 many times.
Oh, you fucked
Anyway,
it, Ben.
Adam, you're on 18 points.
You just missed the penalty. The Champions League semi.
Well, let's have one more question, please.
Here we go. The second and final question. Dan has a cat that Herbert reanimates. What's his
Rufus.
name? Well done, Ben. You
Yes.
clawed that point back.
I'm quick today.
He was always going to get the cat point.
I
Yeah.
know. It had to be a cat question.
Thank you. That keeps things interesting. Adam isn't allowed to run away with it this plainly this year. You have to keep
I
the
wouldn't
heat
have
on
got
him
the
a
cat
little.
name. I forgot the cat's name.
11 points.
Cats are irrelevant.
18 points, 7 points. There we go.
What this is actually is a great victory for you and I both, Adam, because we are scoring points high this year.
That's
when normally
good.
in past, Paul was scoring many points because we didn't know the
Because
answers.
he used
so he was
to make
doing well
many hard
collectively.
questions so
I know.
you could win.
I've made them all very easy so that only you two can get them.
Excellent. Very
I'm
good.
glad
Wonderful.
that you both agree.
Wonderful time. I'm very happy to have at least got a question right, and thank you for your service.
That is good. Shall we move on to the main event?
Please let's.
Let's talk about Re-Animator number 1.
Herbert West is at the top of his class in medical school.
How can you teach such drivel? These people are here to learn, and you're closing their minds before they even have a chance. What are
He's brilliant, but a little weird.
I've broken the 6 to 12 minute barrier. I've conquered brain death.
His experiments have always been unorthodox.
It was dead.
But lately they're getting out of hand. And he's just made a discovery that could wake up the dead.
Herbert West has affected reanimation in dead animal tissue.
What are you thinking? How do you feel? He's dead? Not anymore.
We are talking about Re-Animator, the film from 1985, directed by Stuart Gordon. This is a spoiler episode. We will be going straight into spoilers, no hanging around. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to watch it first. Otherwise, we're just going to spoil it for you. You might be into that, who knows. But first of all, Adam, would you like to do a beautiful plot summary of this film?
Yes, I would do. This film was also on Amazon Prime again, so it's very easy for you to watch. That's if you're in the UK. If you're elsewhere in the world, I don't really know what's happening over there with your services that you watch films on. But yeah, if you're in the UK, there's no excuse not to watch this film before listening. This film is about a doctor who invents a serum that looks a bit like flubber, but it's very liquidy, not rubbery like flubber, and it can bring people back to life after they're dead, but with consequences.
Is he
Very
even a doctor
good.
yet, though? Isn't he a student?
Oh, whatever. He's a doctor student thing.
And
Very
his
good.
name was Herbert West, as they kept reminding us throughout the
Yes.
film.
Herbert the pervert.
Herbert
Guy.
West. Mr. West.
Mr. West.
Great name.
Go on, Ben. Give us a little summary of whatever you want to do this week. Who knows?
All right then. Re-Animator, 1985, Stuart Gordon, as you said, and based on the novel called Herbert West, Re-Animator by H.P. Lovecraft. Excuse me, frog in the throat there.
HP Sauce.
You know any H.P. Lovecraft stuff? Always very peculiar sci-fi, very unusual sci-fi.
Colour Out of Space.
Celia.
Yes, Colour Out of Space.
Oh, he did that film. Okay.
Strange aliens and monsters mixing with science. Yeah, that's H.P. Lovecraft's bag. But anyway, although this film isn't entirely faithful to the book, it's like more of a parody of generally Lovecraft's work. But then Lovecraft's work, and particularly Re-Animator, Herbert West Re-Animator, was in turn meant to be a parody of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That's why he wrote the thing. The tagline tells you all you need to know about the film. The tagline is, Herbert West has a very good head on his shoulders and another one on his desk. So
Ooh.
it's a horror comedy, clearly. And it kind of prides itself on its gruesome special effects. 1985, the year this came out, was a bit of a renaissance for the practical special effects in films. You had George Romero's Day of the Dead coming out that year as well. And the general consensus was that special effects in horror films at that time were designed to make the audience laugh and gag at the same time. And we'll find out in our reviews if it did that for us. Re-Animator spawned 2 sequels, which we will be covering over the course of the next few weeks, but it also spawned a musical, which I don't think we'll be able to cover, and there were several attempts to turn it into a television series like Buffy as well, but they never got off the ground.
Well,
And that is all I have to say about that. I just want to talk
Forrest
about
Gump.
Herbert West Re-Animator.
Well, thank you so much for those wonderful facts, Ben.
You're welcome, my friend.
But as usual, Adam, would you like to be the one to say who does their first impressions in what order?
Yes. I'm going to go first on this one.
Okay.
Then Paul, then Ben. And then next on number 2, but Paul can go first, then Ben, then me, And then last
That's
one,
fair.
Ben can go first, then me, then Paul.
Okay, I hope you remember the order.
Yes.
Or whatever. I remember I went first at some point.
Nice.
At some point, you remember.
Yes.
At the end of the trilogy.
Yes. So shall I just fire away?
Yeah, go for it.
Fire.
Okay.
Fire at will, Captain.
Okay. I very much enjoyed this film. I'm going to say that. It's a wonderful idea. It's quite simple, but yet very effective in everything it does, especially with the special effects. I thought they were most wonderful. I always get blown away by special effects, and then every time you're like, oh, they're really good. And it's like, well, they should always be good because every film's doing good at special effects, but it's still good to see. There were some very creative moments in it. There were some very weird moments, and there were some very weird moments in the film. But it's what you want in your horror films, and yeah, I very much enjoyed this film. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Wow. So you do want to carry on with the Re-Animator series, Adam?
Yes, but I don't know if it's going to go down that whole trope that horror films do when they start off strong and then people start to fade out and they start to just get a bit disinterested and they just do it for money.
Fair dues.
Fair dues indeed.
Is it me next?
It is you.
It is.
I've remembered
Okay.
the order.
Well, I like my B-movie gore fests to be two things, okay? Are you listening?
Would you say this was a B movie?
I'd say it's a very B-movie type of film.
It kind
I'd
of has
say
a B-movie aesthetic, but
Yeah.
I don't
I'd say
think
it's got, like,
I mean,
at
it was
heart
made
it
on
is,
a
but-
budget, so it is.
But then it's
I'd
got
say it's
like
B-movie.
some Hollywood polishing off though.
Yeah, it's not true B-movie. Yeah,
It's very B-movie feel, though. If you're watching it, you're like, this is a B-movie.
it has
If
the
you
feel
included
of
it
a
on your favourite
B-movie.
B-movie thing we did on the Patreon, I wouldn't let you have it.
Anyway,
That's
do you want to
true.
hear what my two things are?
Yes.
Yes.
I like them to be overly gory with some amazing practical effects. And I want those effects to be in abundance, okay? And the second thing is I don't want it to take itself too seriously at all. I want it to be like really leaning into the stupid humour and like outrageous comedy gore. This didn't fulfill either enough for me, I don't think.
Interesting.
How
I
do I
didn't think you were going to say that just then.
It was okay though. The effects it did have were decent, and the end segment was like by far the best, as the rest was like a little slow. And I kind of wish the rest of the film kind of followed with that same vein. It was, I don't think it was very smart considering it was a science-based film. And please remind me to say why in my main review. I didn't like Herbert. I really didn't like the pervy Dr. Hill and his sexual attraction to Megan. But it was a product of the time, and it's a product of the genre. But I don't think it's a good product of the genre. And I give it a 6 out of 10.
Ooh, very harsh.
Remind me, we need to talk about the things that you said. I'm not going to address the things you said in my review. We'll do
Okay.
that in the course of the conversation.
Okay.
Okay. So Paul laid it out there about in a B movie who likes to have special effects in abundance, and he likes it to not take itself too seriously. Be very silly. I thought the special effects in this were fantastic. I thought they were really good, and they were silly good. They were not so graphic as to be completely believable, but not so silly as to look cheap. A lot of effort went into it. I also really liked Herbert West as a leading character. At first I was like, oh, here's the villain. We don't trust this guy. Look at him. He was killing a man right off the bat. And then as the film goes on, it's like, no, this guy's kind of who we're meant to be cheering for. He's not a bad guy, actually. He is Frankenstein. He's Dr. Frankenstein, but for the new age. And I had a good time with the whole film, man. I thought it was...
glad.
I thought it was silly, but not to the point of being too silly. There were scenes in the film that if they'd taken themselves too seriously, I would have really taken against. We'll talk about the cat scene, for example. But the fact that there was a silliness surrounding the cat scene made me embrace it and accept it. And I thought the interactions, the silly one-liners, and the shocking factor of certain things that happen in the final third of the movie kind of make it a little bit unforgettable at that time in the genre. That said, I've watched a lot of horror films, and it isn't anything incredibly stand out in the genre, particularly by today's standards. But back then, I can imagine it being incredible. And if I had watched it like 20 years ago when I was really watching horror films, I think it would have been quite a firm favourite. As it is, I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, a little bit rough around the edges, and I can see certain problems with it. But I had a hell of a good time with it. I was in two minds, and it took me up until the last hour to decide what I was going to give this. But I'm settling on my initial score, and it's an 8 out of 10 from me too.
I'm glad
Look at that.
I'm glad I've got someone on my team. I'd be very upset if you both gave it 6.
I
don't want to be
almost
on any
gonna drop it
teams.
to a
Don't
7.
stop it. You bring football too much in this. I don't want to be teams.
Football into it. I'm happy that someone else has enjoyed it, because the way Paul's review is going on, it's like, if Ben's in the same boat, I feel very upset for this film. It deserves better than that.
Listen,
It does.
right?
I'm very surprised by you, Paul. I'm very surprised.
This is the thing. I absolutely love Evil Dead 2 and Brain Dead, and that is like the bar for me, right? And that is like over the top. There's gore in literally every minute of those films.
Summed it up quite well.
And
It
it's
didn't
so,
go to the point where it was stupid.
Let me finish my point, Adam.
I'm getting my point in as well. That's what we
It
do
is
on
so
Film
ridiculous
Busters.
with every single minute. Like it's like you can't even predict what's about to happen because it's so ridiculous. Where this, I was just like, it just feels like a normal story. It's not like ridiculous until its final scenes. I feel it kind of leaves it till the end segment to become
Less
this
is more,
really
mate.
crazy.
If this was going silly gory all the way through, then there wouldn't have been anything a story. Like it needed a story to hang itself off.
Both Evil Dead 2 and Brain Dead both have very good stories too.
This had a good story.
I'm not saying this didn't have a good story. I just didn't. It didn't give me enough. When I watched this, I want it to be with the subject matter. You're bringing things back to life. You're cutting people's heads off, and they're carrying them around. Yet I want it to be even more outrageous than it was.
Yeah, but I feel like the film didn't need that. The film would have felt weird without that. I don't think that was in keeping with the rest of the film. If they went over the top on the gore and stuff, it really felt very, very weird in this film. I don't feel that this is a film
I don't
that
even think it
warranted
went
that
too
or
over the
needed
top
that.
with the gore.
It didn't go over the top. That's what I'm saying. It hit a nice level.
I don't think
It
so.
hit a
I wanted
level
more.
that suited the film, and it didn't feel, because it was meant to feel. It almost felt, obviously not realistic, but it felt like what it should be in that scenario.
I come to these films for the gore, so I want to see.
Yeah, but hang on a
non-stop
minute.
gore.
But that's like saying you turn up to watch, I don't know, Citizen Kane for a comedy. It's not that type of film.
Really? What?
I know. I get what Paul, bless him, Adam is getting at this. But
As Citizen
every
Kane
horror
for a
film-
comedy.
Not every
Hang
horror
on.
film has to have loads of gore in it. They can do it a
yes,
different
you brought
way.
that. That's on you, Paul. That's true. I didn't know anything about this film, so I didn't even know that they were going to use practical effects. So when I saw them, I was very impressed.
Someone said to you before the film, this is a massive gore fest, and you come out and go, oh, that was horrible. I get that. But you set yourself up for a gore fest when you knew the film, you didn't even know that film was a gore fest. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
And it didn't-
You turn
and
on
it didn't
Citizen Kane
deliver.
thinking, oh, this is a comedy. You don't know what that film's about.
But why
so
were you
can't be
expecting
annoyed
a
that it's
gore
not the
fest?
film you wanted it for.
Because the fact of the matter is, it wasn't funny enough, right? For the subject matter, it wasn't funny enough to be this like outrageous thing about bringing people back to life, and there wasn't enough gore. Because that's what to bring people back to
I
life.
feel like
You
you're
want
getting
this.
very hung up on this gore aspect, and that is not what the film was there to do. They didn't go, we're going to make a gore fest. They go, we're going to make a horror film.
So you want to make a serious film about bringing people back to life.
No,
You
they
don't
make
have
a
to be
horror film that
serious.
doesn't.
Just because it's gory doesn't make it not serious. You can do that in many other ways.
It did not deliver what I wanted, and that's the point.
Ooh.
Well,
You're
what
very
is that
harsh with treating
film?
this film.
What is that film? I haven't seen Paul's one actually, so I can't comment. But you're talking about you wanted brain dead levels of excitement.
Yeah.
That film that you recommended me, Adam, by Peter Jackson.
What was the
What's
other
that one
Paul?
called? Bad Manners or something?
Bad
Bad
taste.
Taste?
That's
Yeah.
the one.
If it's anything like Bad Taste, if this film had been like that, I would have hated it. Now, Bad Taste just had silly effects all the way through and was super silly completely. I hated it because it was so stupid. It's like, well, I don't give a fuck about this. Whereas I cared about this because in horror films generally from that time, none of the characters are fleshed out enough for you to really care about them. So what you need to do is create a couple of classic villains and then throw in a Herbert West type character who's instantly for me become like an iconic character now of the horror genre.
Really?
Like, I will be. Yes, Herbert West was super cool,
he was
man.
so
Like, there
annoying.
Mate, the funny thing is, I have a note. I literally have a note in front of me, Paul, that says Herbert West is Paul. I can see you as Herbert West because you look like him. And if we were ever going to do a reenactment of this film, you would 100% be the first person. And that's not just out of us three. That's out of everyone I know. I would have you playing Herbert West.
Well, I'm fine with that.
But I thought he was a very, very unique character. That's the thing. Let's talk about that. So move away from the gore for a bit. The introduction of him was that he's a bad guy, right? He's going to be the crazy scientist who creates all these monsters. And in some ways, I guess, yes, he did. But with the introduction of Dr. Hill, it became very clear that actually, no, Herbert West, we're rooting for Herbert West. Dr. Hill's the bad guy.
Thinking back at it now, right? Looking at how he was like presenting himself, especially to Dr. Hill at first, I thought, this guy's a dick, considering I didn't know anything about Dr. Hill.
Yes, I agree.
Right,
yeah.
and that is what set me off of, I don't like this guy. Right, and that's what I felt like he was trying to tell me. But I guess, looking back at it now, it's like, okay, Dr. Hill's the bad guy, so of course he would treat him like that.
Yeah.
You were very narrow-minded with this film, I feel, Paul. You couldn't change your thought on him.
Why am I narrow-minded?
You had him set up as the bad guy, and when he wasn't the bad guy, you couldn't forgive him for that. And you wanted a gore fest, and you couldn't switch off the fact it wasn't a gore fest.
There's gore, but it's just not enough. I want more. Is there something wrong with that?
Yes.
Well, you could have had more. I'm sure as we go along this journey, you might find that your
the gore levels go up as the.
I feel like it will. I feel like it will as well.
So tell us if the next instalment has shed loads more gore, more blood, more extremity to it, but generally the plot is the same, you're going to prefer the sequel to this.
I would most likely probably prefer it, yeah.
Come on now. There's a lot of fun to be had in this. Take the gore away. This is the beauty of it. It doesn't just have to be that visceral reaction to gore. A little and often, a little goes a long way. It's like the shark in Jaws. If we'd seen the shark attacking constantly throughout, the shark would not be as scary as it was. So when you hold it back and only see it intermittently, when it does appear, it works. And that's what the gore was like in this.
I don't know though, but the tone of this film, you would expect there to be more. And you expect the tone to be completely different.
You set the tone of the film when they didn't set the tone in the film.
Well, let's review here exactly what you're saying that you wanted there to be more. The film opens up with a gory scenario with Hans Gruber, Dr. Hans Gruber exploding in the nurse's face, right?
Yes.
Then up until we get Rufus the cat in the fridge being reanimated, then we've got the gore from that. Then we've got the guy in the morgue who's like a bodybuilder reanimating.
Do you know who he
we
is?
have the gore from that. Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double.
Yeah, that's what Dan told me. He said from the 90s onwards, he was his stunt double.
Yeah.
I feel like I recognised him. I feel like
he was Arnie's stunt double.
I feel like he might be in one of like the
You recognise that
Living
back.
Dead films.
And then we've got Dr. Dean Halsey gets reanimated. The gore from that. Then we get Dr. Hill, head sliced off. The gore from that. Then we get the gore mixed with the extreme sexual undertones in that morgue scene, which we can talk about in a minute. And then everything that happened at the end. I don't think...
The bit with the intestines around his neck was...
Yeah, well, there's all of that stuff. There was plenty.
I don't think the gore was good enough.
What would you have preferred? If it wasn't good enough, what would you have preferred?
Brain dead.
Mid-80s. Mid-80s.
Brain dead.
Well, I haven't seen it, so tell me what's so good about Brain Dead's gore.
You have to watch it to understand.
I'm never going to watch it because I'm so burnt by that horrible
Well, you
bad
watched the
manners.
wrong one. Because Adam was said he would have picked Brain Dead
I watched the one that was
first. He would have picked Brain Dead first over the other one.
Did he? Oh, well, anyway, I have to pay for that, so I don't. But explain to me why Brain Dead, what is better about the gore?
So there's multiple elements, right, that kind of... I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I gave it a 6. Which means I did have a little bit of fun. I had a little bit.
I don't like that, and I'll never watch it again.
No. It's more like it was fine. Where 7 is that was good. That's why I see it 6 and 7 as.
Come on, tell me about the gore in Brain Dead.
No, I'm telling you about Re-Animator. So I didn't really care for the characters. I really hated the sexual undertones of Dr. Hill and that girl. I hated it. It was just so creepy and it's just horrible.
I agree.
And I expected more. I felt it was just a little slow. For the subject matter, I wanted to see the reanimation more, and I wanted to see the gruesome reanimations.
Well, the thing is, you should have gone into it with a clear, open mind, because why would you even think it was going to be anything like Brain Dead from the off?
I didn't.
I feel like you set yourself up to watch a film that you didn't know you were actually watching.
This film is... you said it in the description at the beginning. It prides itself on its gore, right?
Yes.
So, you're coming to a film, it's gory.
But
Give
you
me
don't
more
know
gore.
it before you watch it, is my point.
But that's what the film is.
Yeah, and
At
then
the
you
back
watch
of this,
it.
that is what the film is now, right?
Yes.
I've watched it, and that's what the film is.
But it's not just all about gore. That's the thing. You're saying you wanted it to be all about gore. This film
I
had
wanted it to
gore
have
in it,
more
but it also
gore.
had like this kitschy sci-fi horror style campy story alongside it, which wasn't like laugh out loud comedy, but was like humorous enough throughout it to make it work.
Let's move on from the gore, and let me tell you another thing that annoyed me.
Okay.
When Dr. Hill's head was cut off,
Yeah.
and he was breathing,
Yeah.
Oh, what, when he opened the bag?
annoyed me. It's like, how are you breathing? And why are you talking? You have no lungs.
Because he was still connected to his body. That's how he can still
wasn't.
control
How
his
does
body.
that make sense?
The brain is
The
still
brain is still-
animated. The brain is still doing what it thinks it
No,
needs to do.
listen
He
to
strangled
me.
that man
He's
with his
talking.
body, didn't he?
He's talking through his mouth. His head's not connected to lungs.
Yes, I know that, but you're talking about a horror film.
I know, but I want it to be a little bit more like, okay, that makes sense.
No, mate, not
Oh
in this
boy,
sort of time. Come
you're
on
very
now.
narrow-minded.
And
You
also another
didn't
thing.
get along with this film.
Another thing, he was talking to his body, which he was controlling, right, and telling it to do stuff. But his body doesn't have ears. His head has ears.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
Oh,
You
mate, this is something else.
You're acting like somebody who's being very childish towards this film.
This is how I felt when I watched it.
All right, listen, boys, because this is chaotic, but good. We all know where we stand here. I'm going to run through very quickly some summaries of stuff that happens in the film, and we can just
Okay,
talk about it as
let's
we
do
go.
it.
Yeah, then we can see how we responded to it. So that initial scene, when she said you killed him, and he said I don't know, I gave him life. From there, I was like, I'm on board with this because I like the fact that you're delivering a cheesy line, but in a way that it isn't like played for laugh out loud comedy. So I'm like, I'm on board. Then you use the psycho music over the credits.
Yes,
I like that.
I thought that
I
was the
agree.
psycho
I liked
music.
that.
Is it actually
it
the
was.
psycho music?
Yeah,
Oh, because I made a note on my phone saying this music's very much like Psycho. Did they get done for it?
very exciting. I don't know how they got the rights to use it, to be honest with you.
It sounded more like the Busta Rhymes Psycho.
Yes, it
than
did.
the
It had the
actual
hip hop
Psycho.
style to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Anyway, and then long story short, Herbert West is introduced, and like Paul said, think he's a bit of a twat because of how he spoke to Dr. Hill. I thought he was a twat at first as well, because this is when I was still thinking he was a bad guy.
I was like, don't let him live in your house. Like, it's going to go tits up.
Yes, that's it. So he turns up at Dan's house. Dan, whatever his name is, Dr. Dan will call him. Turns up at Dan's house and is like, I hear you want a roommate. And then he moves in. And very quickly, Dan and his girlfriend are having sex one evening, and they realise that the cat hasn't jumped on their back this time. So they go looking for the cat.
Well,
And
she
they
notices
find
it.
the
He
cat.
doesn't.
Is that
really
actually what
care.
they say? That it hasn't jumped on their back?
Yeah,
No,
it
but
normally
earlier
comes
in the
and jumps
film, the
on it.
cat jumps on his back, innit?
Right. Yeah, I didn't think she said that though. That's what I was like. Did you say that?
No, I don't think she said that. And then they go looking for the cat. And so this bit when they started looking for the cat had me on edge because I obviously love cats. But that wasn't the only reason it had me on edge. It had me on edge because I was like, I am not enjoying the way that they are delivering this because they've relied on generic horror stuff, slowly following someone around a flat looking for something, and it just went too slow. But I was then glad that they actually found the cat, because normally in a horror film they would do that and then they'd open a door and then something else would be inside.
And Herbert killed the cat, right? You know.
Well, I had that question. Did he or didn't he?
He definitely killed the cat.
Yeah, he killed that cat.
So how do you feel
Well,
about Herbert now?
We never know for sure.
Herbert
I
killed
don't-
the cat.
I don't like...
When I was watching the film, though, Ben, I feel like Ben switched off at this point. We've lost him in this film. It's like American Psycho 2.
I was very not ready to like it because at this point. It's to its credit that it held me. And the reason is it was silly in its delivery, because immediately after that, the cat is reanimated, they kill the cat, and then they reanimate it again. That's brilliant. With fluorescent liquid. Come on.
I agree. I like that.
So that was all very good. And I liked all that kitschy stuff. But if you can save a film after you kill a cat, then that's saying something for me. I got to say, this would work very well as a double bill with Asphyx, by the way. You know that film I mentioned in the Patreon?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that when I was watching it. Yeah.
Very well with it.
Let me just talk about the next scene that happens after this.
Yes.
This is what I wanted to bring up. When he goes into the head's office.
Yeah.
It's the father of the girlfriend, isn't it? And basically saying that Herbert is reanimating things and he needs to be taken out of the school. And the head doesn't believe him and basically kicks him out. And then the best line, he goes, "I want a written apology tomorrow." What are you asking a written apology for?
Well, because it's like a medical school, isn't it?
He was like,
I want to
any of our equipment.
I want a written apology for what you just said to me in this room right now. It's ridiculous.
I think, well, again, see, the things that you got problems with, if you're complaining about these things, then
no, but this
the
is
film's
the thing.
lost you. That's
Things
it.
like no,
It's simple
things
as
like
that.
in
this.
every film.
Things like this would make me laugh in a film that doesn't take itself too seriously, and it does make me laugh that it happened. I'm not saying I can't believe he was asking for an apology note. I'm saying it's funny that he asked for an apology note.
I suppose.
God, you're very against me. You don't like me in this episode.
You're coming with a negative attitude towards it. So
I come telling you a funny thing about what the head teacher's saying, and you're thinking I'm coming against you.
You're coming against the film. You've been negative towards the film, so I'm sorry that you're being more negative.
Adam, how do you feel about the head teacher asking for a note of apology?
I didn't really acknowledge it, to be honest.
I didn't clock that he
But
did.
how do you feel about it now that you know?
Whatever, move on.
Is it funny?
It is kind of funny, yeah.
Well, laugh, because I'm trying to make you laugh about something that happened.
Yeah, but your delivery is terrible. It's a good job you weren't in the film.
Oh my God.
He was Herbert West, mate. That's what I'm telling you.
Doesn't like me this episode. Very turned against me.
This is one of those episodes we haven't had in a while where we disagree, and I'm relishing it. But I'm not making up things for the sake of having an argument. I'm just
What
saying
about
my
an apology
point.
note?
Paul is being very difficult here.
I'm trying to say it was a funny moment. I'm not trying to make you turn against the scene.
You said it as a
Think
negative
of me.
moment.
I'm talking through the film and saying some funny moments that happened in it.
The Dean asked for an apology because Dr. Dan came in and was like, "Hey, you've got
Dr. Dan.
this is what's going on," and he's like, "I'm firing that guy. Needs to leave, and if you're going to stay here, you'll apologise for this nonsense."
If you're coming across the film as if it's a serious film right now, where this is supposed to be a comedy, you said,
no,
and that's why it's funny.
But with a thread of humour in it. Yes, but I don't think that was intentionally meant to be funny.
I found it very funny. It's the funniest scene in the film.
Well, then it worked for you. You
I'm
were
glad
very
you
happy with
enjoyed
the
it.
comedy, eh?
Very happy with that scene.
Anyway, Adam sneaks Paul into the morgue after that because they need to go looking for another corpse because Adam's Dr. Dan. And this is when they
I
reanimate.
didn't
Confuse
realise
the
you
hell
said
out
my
of
name.
people.
I was like, who's Paul in the film?
I know. Dr. Dan and Herbert West. Let's say
You're
Herbert
going to
West.
confuse people by calling them by us.
The amount of times that they refer to this guy as Mr. West and Herbert West is ridiculous, to the point of this is what makes it almost feel like a cult film for me, because that's the kind of thing that you could see on a t-shirt. Herbert West, Mr. West. Instantly you know what that is, or I do. I liked it. I liked that they kept referring to him as such. He had such a strange presence in the whole film. I liked that he was not. He was an anti-hero. That's what he was. Yes.
How did you feel that this was the first Hans Gruber character before Die Hard?
When they said Hans Gruber, I was like, no, they must be saying another name, and I'm just hearing Hans Gruber. And then it's like, no, he was actually called Hans Gruber.
I had to check. I was like, which came out first?
It's such a peculiar name as well.
Yeah, it is. Unless it's very common in Germany or Switzerland, wherever they're from. They go in to the morgue, and it's time for some more reanimation. And this is where they reanimate old Arnold Schwarzenegger's body double. Now, I got to say, this scene was quite vicious, and I loved it. It was very wild. the way he was throwing his body around, the twitching and the effects were quite wonderful.
Thrown
I
at the
enjoyed
cupboard.
it. Excuse me?
He was thrown at the cupboard.
Thrown at the cupboard. And then the headmaster, or whatever he was, not headmaster, whatever that guy was, was his name, Dr. Harley. Yeah, Dr. Harley gets crushed by the door when the guy just throws the door through and jumps on him.
Crunch.
And then bites his fingers off. All of that was one. See, that for me, if they'd gone too much, if they'd done more gore on top of that, then I think I can kind of see maybe what you're saying, Paul. If they had done more gore here, then the film would have had to have been more comedic to make it land. But for me, the amount of gore was equal to the amount of like dark comedy that was running through it.
Fair.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So I win.
I'm agreeing with everyone this episode.
Good.
No more fighting from me. You don't like
listen. Here's the other thing. I forgot to mention. You know when Herbert West was watching Dr. Hill do a brain surgery, and he was dipping that thing into the gentleman's heads? That was horrible.
That was horrible.
Why was Herbert West keep snapping pencils?
I know.
He was very angry about the brain surgery.
Is that what it was? He was angry, so he just kept snapping pencils?
Yes. He was trying, just distracting him from his work. Just a note to say that the cotton bud scene was actually the first time that they go to the morgue and they're operating on a body, not in the actual lesson.
You're right. You are right.
I didn't want anyone to send us angry emails.
No, keep this in. Keep this in as the
I'm
disclaimer.
This in.
Anyway, just quickly wrapping up with what happens after that. Our dear security guards, who I'm very fond of because he keeps smoking a cigar and is very chill.
Security guard in the world. He accepted the fact that nobody wanted to come in or leave the place, and whatever happened, he was like, "Oh, that can't be a problem."
He also do you know when this? I'll wait till we get to it. Go on, carry on.
Were you going to say he goes off to masturbate?
Yes.
Yeah. This is very inappropriate. like, oh, I'm going to take my lunch break early or something like that. And he walks off with his cigar and his Playboy. So because he walked off, this is where Dr. Hill... this before the formula bit, because this is where where Dr. Harley has been...
Yes.
Has been... turned. No one knows what it is at this point. No one knows exactly what's happened, but they've been able to control him in the way that they haven't been able to control the cat. This is the first human experiment, because Herbert West is he's fresh, short of murdering someone. This is the freshest we're going to get. So they managed to reanimate him, and he's kind of cool. He's a loose wire, but he's cool. He's calm. He's not frantic.
He seems quite timid.
Yes, he's a little
hiding.
scared and nervous.
Yeah.
And then they whack him behind glass, and then Dr. Hill comes along all curious and essentially lobotomizes him.
Mm.
Meanwhile, Dr. Hill comes over to Herbert West,
knowing what he's done.
Says, I know what you did, and now you're going to turn over all your stuff to me, or I'm going to rat you out. And then while he's telling him how it works, while Herbert West is showing him how the serum works, Herbert West swings the spade at him and whacks him round the head.
I did think that something was going to happen to the slide on the microscope. He was stepping back like it was going to explode in his face or something.
That'd have been nice.
Yeah, he chopped his head off with that spade. Horrendous.
Yes, twist the head off. And then he injects the head and he's like, Dr. Hill, talk to me.
And he's like, I'm breathing through my head, through the neck hole.
Yes, Paul wants to know all the science behind how the disembodied head was able to continue living.
I'm breathing through my neck hole.
How do you know that serum didn't give him a pair of lungs in his neck hole?
Oh, well.
They just didn't have to explain everything.
I wish they told me.
Anyway, they whack his head on a spike. He starts talking to Mr. West, and then he manages to knock out Mr. West. And him and his disembodied body, the disembodied head and the body run off with the serum.
Drinking up all the blood.
Yes, in a bowl full of blood. And then they have a really weird exchange where Herbert West comes around, and Dan is like, I think he's going after Meg. He's projected some sort of psychotic need onto her. And then Herbert West just starts going,
I know.
Why are you laughing at this bit? was like, what are you laughing? You're not meant to be crazy, are you?
That was all very odd. He had a big obsession with her.
He was very creepy, and
He
I
was
agree
very
with you. He
creepy,
was a
especially at
creepy
the end as well.
motherfucker.
Horrendous. I don't even know what his plan was. He just wanted to suck her boobs and go down on her.
I feel like
That was a very
so
horrible,
at this
weird scene
point where
to
we see
watch.
this horrible stuff, which is horrible, where she is stripped down for the third time in the film. Very bad gender politics. They get her naked 3 times for no reason whatsoever.
8 out of 10.
Well, that it's to the film's credit that despite that stuff, I can give it 8 out of 10. You know me.
Well, I don't let it stand, that kind of stuff, you know.
Well, all I must say is before they get her onto that table and strip her down, one creepy scene is that body walking down the hallway and they've got that anatomical head sitting on top of its shoulders
Oh, yes.
to go in. That's creepy, mate.
How could the guard not even see that?
He was looking at his Playboy.
He lifted up the thing, didn't he?
He was literally he was like sliding down the wall to get to the door, and he almost made it. And it's like he's literally next to you. How can you not see this person?
Oh, you got to roll with that, mate. Listen, if you've got an anatomical head on top of someone's shoulders,
And you got a head breathing without lungs.
Exactly. Inside the suitcase.
they said one of them making the movie, the actress who played Meg, like while everyone was standing around patting themselves on the back for this anatomical head, the actress who was Meg is like, why wouldn't the body just pick up its own head and put it on his shoulders? And everyone was like, oh well, we've already written it this way, so we're doing it this way now.
I was waiting for that because when he was putting the blood in the tray, I was thinking, okay, now he's going to stitch his head back on or something. He was like getting the blood in there. Never happened.
It didn't. And then we get this horrendous sexual stuff, which is quite unforgettable, I've got to say, but it made me feel uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
Tell us what sexy stuff happened here, Adam.
What, is this when she's been tied down to the
Yeah.
thing?
The stuff that you remember, Adam.
She got one hand free. This is the problem. She got one hand free, so why didn't she get the other hand free?
I didn't know she got one free.
She did because she was pushing away at the head.
Ben wasn't watching her hands.
Oh, you.
You pervert.
And you are Herbert the pervert.
You really are a Mr. Pervert now. You've ruined the whole
Yeah.
film. The whole mood of this podcast is gone.
Paul is pervert West.
I'm the only one with the approaching this in a comedy sense.
Oh no, you're
Paul
Oh,
wanted
God.
to see her breasts explode in graphic detail
Yeah.
I
with
would
lots
have
of gore.
absolutely loved that.
Yeah, you would have, you
I would
sicko.
have.
But mate, let me.
I feel okay. The next film is Bride of Re-Animator. We're getting some exploding breasts in there. I tell you.
If not, what are you going to give it? 1 star?
Maybe we'll see, won't we,
Will you even turn up for the final chapter if they don't?
mate? I always pull through.
Yeah,
Don't worry
his
about
name's
it.
Paul.
Exactly.
So basically, since Adam doesn't want to tell us what happens, he's
I was very
positioning.
uncomfortable.
Paul had to make it weird, and I'm not on board.
Very
with that.
uncomfortable. It's fine.
He did,
It's
he
just
made
the
the
naked
situation
form.
uncomfortable.
It's the
It's an
naked
uncomfortable
form,
situation.
Adam.
Yes, but you said you weren't looking at her hands. You were only looking at her boobies.
No, I said Ben wasn't looking at her hands because he said he didn't see her
Oh no,
hand
you
break free.
you can't worm your way out of this, Paul.
I was
Well,
looking
it's
away
on
from
the
the screen.
podcast episode. It's on the podcast episode. You could hear
I
it
wasn't looking
if you
at the
listen
screen.
back.
I was actually sending an email to the director complaining for the
Yes.
need to have the lead naked 3 times in a row. But Dr. Hill picks up his disembodied head
Yes.
and sort of positions it over her breast. And I feel like he kisses her neck. I can't remember if he sucks
He
her
sucks her
nipples.
nipple. He does because there's all blood on it.
And then he starts moving his head down towards
Yeah.
in between her legs. And I was like, oh my lord, this is
How is she
wild,
letting
wild.
you do this?
This is pretty horrific stuff.
It is
You want to
very
hear
horrific for
something
her.
interesting now?
Yeah, go on.
The actor who played the role of Dr. Hill, who's called David Gale, at the premiere of this film, his wife was sat next to him,
Oh shit.
and when she saw this scene, she screamed at him. She couldn't believe it. She stormed out of the theatre, and they got divorced.
Holy shit.
And the reason for it was because she had no idea that he was playing this sort of character. And I mean, it's a movie, but at the same time, if your husband
Yeah.
has kept it secret,
Yes, that
I
is
can
very-
imagine that.
You would have told her.
So imagine.
Why would you not have told her about that beforehand?
Probably because you're a disembodied head going down on someone who's not your wife.
No, but why didn't he tell her that it was going to happen? Like, get her ready for it.
He thought it would be a nice surprise on premiere night. He's like, if you play your cards right, this could be me and you tonight.
Oh my God.
And she was like, divorce.
Divorced. Next day.
Then he married the actress.
Oh, creepy, don't be, eh?
It wouldn't surprise me.
And then, in a great climax, Herbert West comes in to save the day.
Or no climax for him.
Well, so here, this is where we have the big face-off, and all the other bodies in the morgue pop up, and like Dr. Hill's guts rip out of his chest and wrap around Herbert West. And I actually had to play the film back because I didn't realise that this is how Herbert West disappears from the film. He just gets wrapped up in the guts and gets sucked away.
Yeah.
It's quite
He's
an
been taken away.
undramatic death for such a big character.
Well,
Whoa.
is it? So my
It's a
question
sequel.
is...
It's a sequel. He's in it.
Oh, spoilers.
You better not have spoiled it. Do you know that for
He's
a
on
fact?
every single cover of the film.
Oh, mate. Well, I didn't know that. I haven't looked at that. So I had a point here for us to discuss if Herbert West is going to return. Oh, well.
There's no point even doing the rest
Paul
of this
can't
now.
help
We might as well
himself.
Paul's just
I
cancelled
thought it was
Re-Animator
common
month.
knowledge. I thought it was common knowledge that we knew that because I knew beforehand that he was in all three of the films because he was on the covers.
I thought this other Dan was going to potentially be the lead with his wife, hence why it's
That's
called
why I
Bride of
thought it was
Reanimator.
Well, listen. As soon as you saw the cover for the next film when you're about to play it, you would have realised he's in it.
Well, fine.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't have ruined it for everybody else who's listening along as well. Everyone have found out in a later month and they're excited. Now all the excitement's been drained out of this episode.
Listen, this isn't some
You've ruined this
highly,
episode twice in the
highly
last 5
dramatic thriller that we need to not know this stuff.
You've ruined this episode twice in 5 minutes.
Herbert West,
He gets dragged away.
dragged away by the guts.
He does.
But not before he throws his bag of serum towards Dan as they go running.
Indeed.
And he does that in a very timely manner because after they fight off whatever you would call them, the reanimated bodies
Yes.
at the lift entrance, Meg is dying on the table and you just knew what was going to happen, eh?
Yeah.
He took very long to get that axe.
Oh, he did, eh? And also, like, fight a little harder.
I know. It's like you ran all the way down a corridor to go get an axe. It's like, just
It
knock
took
him
him a
off.
while to think about getting the axe as well. Like, she would be very angry if she came back alive. She went, "You let me die, you bastard."
Did she actually die from that chokeout?
Yeah,
That's what killed her, isn't it?
Yeah. They were trying to resuscitate her, weren't they?
Yeah, they
Do you
said
know
her trachea was broken or something.
And then he's like, I got something for that. Whips it out and injects it into the pillow behind her head, clearly, because it's definitely not going into her neck. I so wanted it to end with Herbert West appearing then saying, we can fix her at the end like that. That would have been good.
That would have been cool.
And then
It ends.
film ends.
Fades to black, and you just see the glow of the syringe.
It was very
And
nice.
then her screaming.
That's true. So she's back. I did like the effect that they did there with the glow of the syringe depleting as it's being injected. Now, listen. Having recounted that, that's a lot of fun. That's a million times better than most mid-80s horror films.
Yes.
Well,
It's still not gory
It's a
enough
lot of
to
fun
pull.
talking about it, but watching it.
Well, I had plenty of fun. I was touching myself all through, apart from the sex scenes.
You brought yourself into that. What's going on, mate? I was touching myself. I reckon all the good bits were in about 30 minutes of the film.
Was that the end bit for you then, Paul?
No. I'm saying if you like compressed it all, it'd be about 30 minutes was really good.
You could do
Yeah,
that
but you
into
could
a
say
lot
that
of
about
films.
Halloween or anything.
Nah, you can watch Halloween and love the whole thing.
Yeah, but there's people out there who could say, oh, you don't need 7 minutes of walking shots from house to house.
That's progression, mate. That's how people get from one
That's how
place
this
to another.
film works as well.
All I will say, dear listeners, is our boy Paul gave Paddington 2 an 8 in the same week that he gave Re-Animator
You're talking
a 6.
you're talking to the wrong people because all these people probably agree that
Yeah, it's
Paddington's
true.
better.
Well, fuck you all.
Listen,
Now listen,
I had an okay time with this film.
you said something in your review up top.
Go on, what did I say?
You said you wish the whole film had been like the ending.
Yes. I wish there was just naked women being molested by old men.
That was all too wild. If you want that, you need to go get Dawn of the Dead or something like that, because that's what that kind of film
Dawn of the
is.
Dead is a very good film.
Yeah, it is. No, it is very good. But that's not what this film was. So comparing them is folly.
I wished it was.
You wished it was, but that's like me wishing fucking Captain America was fucking Eraserhead. So it don't matter how much I wish it, they're not the same kind of film.
That's like looking for comedy in Citizen Kane.
It is.
Yes.
This guy had a hell of a time. The same guy who lost his wife because of that scene.
Yeah.
Stuart Gordon told him to shave his head for the film and wear a toupee because the budget was so low, they were worried that his actual hair wouldn't match the fake hair they had on the prosthetic head.
Oh,
so
my
that
God.
hair that's on the prosthetic head,
It's the hair that was on his head.
It's his hair that was on his head.
I was thinking that when I saw his hair, I was like, this is a toupee.
It was very 80s hair, right?
Yes.
Well, I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was kooky. I thought it was camp, but not so silly that it was stupid.
I very much agree.
I had a good time with it. I wish it was more kooky and I wish it was more over the top. But it is what it is, and I had a lot of fun talking about it with you.
Well, that's good. What's going to be interesting to see here now is where they take this. So let's have some predictions. What do we think is going to happen
come
in
back
the
and be evil.
You reckon evil, yeah?
Well, she's gonna have to. Like, everyone who's come back so far has turned into a zombie thing.
Apart from the dad had a lot of personality. He saved her.
Yeah, the dad had personality still.
And she had
true.
literally just died when he injected her.
True.
So if this follows the trend of Frankenstein, where Bride of Frankenstein came next, when Frankenstein's bride is created, Frankenstein's monster sees the Bride of Frankenstein, tries to approach her, but she's repulsed by him, and then he's like, we belong to be dead, we shouldn't be here, and he burns the castle down so they both die. So perhaps Dr. Dan will also die and get injected, and then they're both undead and have to be killed. I don't know.
Maybe.
I feel like that, yeah. I reckon Dan's going to turn himself somehow in the film.
Is it going to be a case of a sequel being better than the original? Is it going to be a Child's Play 2? I want Child's Play 2 levels of upping the ante. Child's Play was great, and Child's Play 2 took it up a notch.
I very much hope so.
I feel like that third one isn't going to be very good because the fact that they didn't make any more after it suggests that it was really not successful.
And
The
it
fact
came
of the matter-
like mid 2000s, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm
was it?
interested in. There's such a big... I mean, this next one's mid-90s, I think, and then this last one is early 2000s.
One every decade. That's interesting, man.
Yeah. Like, that is a big, difference in early 2000s in, the quality of film and the quality of effects.
So if you were going to put it into context of what sort of horror films were big in the 80s, the big 80s horror films were Friday the 13th, Basket Case, Child's Play, The Blob, Prince of Darkness, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. A lot of it was sort of like sci-fi silliness. But then the 90s horror films switched it up and became much more about slashers. In a way that 70s did slashers and into the 80s it pervaded, but the 90s slashers like Scream, Urban Legend, all of that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how they lean into that.
Maybe the next film is a slasher.
It is
Her
literally
going
on
round.
1990. That's when it was made.
Just her going round slashing everyone up.
Well, I look forward to it. I hope that she can keep her clothes on this time.
Maybe she became a more
Because-
respected actress and said, no, I'm not doing it this time.
There were a lot of breasts on display in that film. Unnecessarily so. Even the corpse at the beginning that he was resuscitating.
Yeah.
And there's that
Like,
naked
tits
woman
out.
in the
No need for
scene
that.
at the end where she was beating people up as well.
It's highly outrageous, isn't it?
Especially in the 80s.
It was acceptable in the 80s.
It was acceptable at the time.
acceptable in 90s horror films as well, so...
Yes, this is true.
I think Paul Ben was singing Calvin Harris, but it was acceptable in the 80s.
Well, I'm
And the
looking forward to where
90s.
it goes, and assuming that we didn't know, the big question would be, will Herbert West return?
But Paul's ruined that, so that's already gone out the window.
I feel like he will.
Well, you know what? They could just be using his image to promote the subsequent films because he's the iconic image with Re-Animator.
Oh, he could. They could, yeah.
He didn't get a very big death, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, he had a death and he died,
No.
and they just moved on. And it's only like you realise 5 minutes later that he actually died in that scene. They didn't
I had
really
to play
make
it
a thing
back
about
to
it.
even clock that.
I feel like you should read into it that, oh, we didn't see his death.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's possible. He was just being
He
sucked in
became
by
the
his guts.
intestine.
Mm.
He's going to come in swinging the intestine around like it's a chain.
A lasso.
Yeah, all that.
Lasso. Have you guys ever seen another Stuart Gordon film?
No. Let me have a look. See what he's done.
There's one called Castle Freak, which is really good because of the prosthetic. There is a freak who's lived in the castle for years and years and years. He's like completely naked, and the practical effects are so horrible. But the film is bad. But the creature is really horrible, and it works every time the creature's on screen, which is quite a lot. Sort of prowling around. He did. Did you ever watch the Masters of Horror box set, Paul? Back when they had like John Carpenter and Stuart Gordon and all of them just dropping an hour episode. Very good. John Carpenter's one, Cigarette Burns, was crazy good. Crazy
really?
good. Udo Kier's in it, and it's a lost reel of film that this guy wants to pay big money for. So this detective has to go and hunt it down. And when they find the reel of film, you watch what's on it, and it's, oh, mate, it's a snuff film of an angel. An angel has been caught and captured, and they are killing the angel, but it's done in such a gritty way.
I think I've seen
What?
that.
Yeah, they slice its wings off, and it's got all this bloody stubs and stuff. That's John Carpenter, mate.
I remember seeing something like that.
It's
I don't
very
know
good.
why, but
I can see he's done 2 episodes, The Black Cat and Dreams in the Witch House. Stuart Gordon.
I think I saw the Dreams in a Witch House because it's a couple of lesbians living in a building, and that's all I really remember.
Stuart Gordon died in 2020.
Oh, what a shame. No more. Do we know? Well, let's not look. I don't know if he directed the follow-up ones. That will make a difference.
Shall I check since I've seen the posters?
Go ahead.
Okay, let's have a look. The sequel is by Brian Yuzna.
Well, okay.
yeah. So he was the producer, and I'm pretty sure when I watched the film, it said he directed it, and then when I went on Letterboxd at the end, it said it wasn't him. It was Stuart Gordon.
Oh, and he directed the 2000 one as well, Brian Yuzna. So
He
he's more
produced the
Re-Animator
producer
than Stuart Gordon.
Anyway, so let's go and see where Re-Animator places in our overall ratings. And this will be interesting to see how it shuffles based on the subsequent films that we watch as well. But for now, let's see where it places in the Filmbusters scoring hit list league table. Alright then people, we are back and we checked it out. We did the average at 7.3. We got loads of films at 7.3, but this actually ends up right at the top, bar one. Our top 7.3 rated film is The Velocipasta, which we caught earlier this year, and which you can catch too if you go back into the catalogue. But it sits just below The Velocipasta, but above It Chapter 2. It's a pretty good place. That's a pretty good place to be. That's a fairly solid position on our charts. You don't want to be any lower than that. Then you're getting into the dregs of the podcast.
That's interesting though, because you gave It Chapter 2 a 9 when you first watched it, Ben.
I know, but I mean,
In
I'm
hindsight,
sure-
would you say this is better than It Chapter 2?
Yes, this is better than It Chapter 2, yeah.
Well, why doesn't it get a 9 then?
Well, I'm sure that I voted It Chapter 2 down. Yes, I did. It's
You
an
did.
8, mate.
But I mean, to think that something was a 9,
Yeah.
surely that makes it a really high 8.
It's because they hit some of the emotional strings in It Chapter 2. So my immediate response was that. But I can tell you, I can barely remember anything that happened in It Chapter 2. Whereas I know in 6 months I'll remember what happened in this.
Fair
And
dues.
fondly.
Very good.
Shall we hear what our patrons have been watching recently? What they recommend for people?
Right, first off, we have Julio, and he says, so, I finally watched the very first Star Trek movie. There was some excitement to it, in the sense that it was a new, for me, adventure with the OG crew. But it was ultimately really boring and it bummed me out. Happy to cross it off my list, but I don't expect to ever revisit it. Have I already told you about Collective being my favourite of the Oscar-nominated docs? Sadly, it didn't win. The Octopus doc won. Gah! How'd you say gah?
Like
G-A-A-A-H-H-H. Gah?
Gah!
Gah! Mine more like a seagull.
Yeah, it did.
Still, you should all watch Collective. Felt a little like Spotlight, but as a doc. Well, I'd hate if it was Spotlight in a good way. That was me putting my opinion and then finishing off Julio's review.
You didn't like Spotlight.
Okay, let me just say it. Felt a little like Spotlight, but as a doc in a good way. But then I say, I hope it's not like Spotlight because I didn't like it.
What didn't you like about Spotlight?
I remember it being very slow and the stuff that you'd expect to see, and it didn't actually happen.
It did happen, didn't it?
It didn't, and then at the end it was just like, oh, that's it. It happened at the end.
I swear Spotlight was based on true shit, wasn't it?
It was, but then it was just like, it just happened at the end, that was it.
Oh. I don't remember it too well, but I remember the subject of the film.
I haven't seen it, so please don't spoil.
I won't. But I really want to watch the Octopus documentary, actually.
I watched it, I do, and it's weird.
So why does Julio dislike it so much, do you think, Adam?
It's because it's just weird. It's about a guy who basically has a romantic relationship with an octopus. And it's just quite bizarre, and then it ends in a very bizarre way.
Is it really that, Adam?
Oh, yeah, hang on. So,
it is.
Yeah, Julio said something about the ending, but don't spoil it. He said, without giving anything away, something happened at the ending that makes you be like, oh, why?
It makes you question everything the guy really did about the film.
All right, let's not talk about it.
I can tell you why Julio didn't like it, because I listened to his Patreon episode on it. Do you want me to tell you why I didn't like it?
Why?
Yeah, I heard this same one.
What about spoiling it, though?
That he doesn't know how he feels about letting, like wildlife documentaries, when you just let nature happen. And
yes.
Yeah.
Is it morally right to let it happen in front of your eyes when you don't actually do anything about it?
Yeah.
But yeah, the octopus documentary is weird. I don't know. I haven't seen any of the other documentaries that got nominated for Oscars, but it just kind of seemed a bit bog standard. I mean, I think it won because of obviously the subject of like somebody becoming friends with an octopus. I don't think that's ever been seen before, but that's all it is. It doesn't really develop in beyond that.
I'm actually really excited to watch it.
Julio does not want us to watch that anyway. His recommendation is Collective.
I'd watch Collective.
Actually, in his Patreon episode, he said he wants people to watch it to have an opinion on it, so he can hear people's opinion.
But his favourite is Collective.
Yes.
So let's watch that. I'm probably not going to waste my time with the octopus one. I'm sick of watching films that...
it's like an hour and 20, I think.
I'm sick of watching films just because they appear at the Academy Awards.
I agree with that.
I've given up on it properly, fully for the first time this year.
I only watch films that I want to watch.
So many of them are sevens.
Like Nomadland.
Well, yeah. Like, occasionally, obviously, there's some really good stuff that gets through, but a lot of generic crap gets through.
Of course. Like Mank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Trial of Chicago
But as
7.
for the Star Trek movie, I think I watched all the Star Trek movies a long, long time ago. Don't remember anything about them. So they probably weren't that good.
I haven't seen any of the original Star Trek movies, but I liked the first two of the new generation, the Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto ones. I liked both of them.
Yeah,
and I haven't seen the third one.
Yeah, I haven't seen the third one either.
Oh, well, maybe we'll cover it.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe that would be a nice change of pace, eh?
That probably would be, yes.
Let's do the Quentin Tarantino Star Trek film.
Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek. Yeah, I liked Chris Pine in that first one when his face is all inflated. Do you remember?
I need to watch it again. I saw it when it first came out.
It was good. Chris Pine was very young and attractive in that, and he's turned into a real piece of plasticine now, man. He's melting onto himself. I like him, but he's got to take better care of his face. I don't know what's happened there.
Chris Pine. He looked well good in Wonder Woman 84.
You are a fool, mate. You see how he is, and you see that his face has fallen down upon it. He's Botoxed himself beyond an inch of his life, and it's all folded in on top of himself. You are a foolish man.
Well, I don't care too much about what he looks like, so I'll just let you have that one.
I care about looks. It's not about the performance. I just want good-looking men in my film.
He needs to be pristine.
Yeah, keep them clean, lean.
Keep them mean.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Anyway, let's hear from our old patron buddy, Nerd Revert, who we haven't heard from in a while. He's here with some recommendations, and thank God he is, because we put this call out very last minute, so we haven't got the rest of our posse. So Nerd Revert, the best thing that he has watched, The Mitchells versus the Machines. I haven't had that much fun with an animated movie in a long time. It's very much its own movie, but gives off the Incredibles vibes. Okay. Worst, without remorse. For as much as I enjoy Michael B. Jordan in most roles, this was a rough watch. Yes, there are some fun action sequences, but there's absolutely zero character depth or development. This would have been a perfect popcorn action flick in the 80s. On that, I could tell that it would be, because it's like Clancy, isn't it?
Yes,
like,
yes.
That's
Tom
just going to be
Clancy.
rubbish. And I don't know anything about the Mitchells, Vida Machines. I saw that Movie Journey were watching that today
I've
as
seen
well.
a lot of it popping up on
people
on
love it.
Letterboxd, and it's getting a lot of
What
good
is it?
reviews.
Do you know?
I have
Do we know
no
the
idea
plot?
what it's about.
I think it's about
but
family attacking robots.
something like that.
Oh, I like that. I like the sound of that. I'll try. If it's on Netflix, is it?
Yeah.
You say?
Yeah, there's some 10 out of 10s on there.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll check that one out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
How does Julio get to see Spotlight, by the way? Is that available somewhere? Not Spotlight, Collective.
I don't
Maybe
know.
in America, it might be a HBO Max thing.
Well, add it to the watch list, nevertheless.
Nevertheless.
So if you want to be able to make recommendations to all of our fellow listeners as well, you know what to do. Sign up and become a patron. And if you do, you'll be able to hear us continue talking now, which we're about to do, as we talk about the most surprising director and actor performances.
And you can become a patron at www.patreon.com/filmbusters.
And we're going to go and talk and reveal some stuff to each other that we've never revealed before.
No.
Oh, and you'll have to find out once you subscribe.
And if you can't be bothered to subscribe, that's cool. We'll see you for Re-Animator Part 2, which is
Bride
called what?
of Re-Animator. Bride
Oh.
of the Re-Animator? Bride of the Re-Animator. I don't
Bride
know.
of Re-Animator. And let's hope Paul can leave his...
Gore at the door.
yeah, excellent.
Way!
Filmbuster.